Hi there. This is H. Victoria Hogro Atkerson. I'm an author and a writer, and I've been spending a little time talking about using personal stories and personal knowledge in your writing to add flavor, color, and interest in the storyline. So I'm going to continue that today. But what I wanted to remind you is the importance of choosing carefully to make sure that the stories you choose to use in your writing have relevance to the storyline and to the characters. It's very important that you choose wisely. So take a moment and think about some of your wonderful experiences that you would like to have immortalized in writing. And I invite you to listen as I read this part of the story in Stones Along the Path, which is my first published book. Here is one of three. Part one and part two are finished. Part three is being finished now and should be released next year. The story of a Peace Corps volunteer and an African. They marry and have a very tumultuous relationship. The whole story is about their their inability to live together and to be a husband and wife and to provide for their children. Okay, they do have two sons. Now the part I'm going to read is from Dexter's side of the story, and as you remember, this is a memoir. Jessica writes her memoirs, and Dexter writes his memoirs because he wants people to know his mother as he knew her. So the part I'm going to read today is Dexter talking about his childhood in North Philadelphia, where he was raised and spent a great deal of his time. So I'm going to read from that today. This particular story I took from a real incident that happened with my husband. He actually did this, he and his best friend. So I thought it was a great story because it shows how mischievous little boys can be when they are unsupervised. So here we go. I'm going to read this story. I hope you enjoy it. Okay. This is taken from, we'll start here. Saturday mornings were slow and lazy in North Philadelphia, except for the scrubbing of the marble steps, which started around 7 o'clock in the morning. Scrubbers were usually the first people we would see, but the rest of the neighborhood would not attempt to wake up until after 11 o'clock, which gave two energetic young boys who woke up at 7 o'clock plenty of time to create mischief. Our criminality remained undiscovered for almost a year. One lazy Saturday morning, we sat on Granny's steps watching Jim the postman stuff letters into the mailboxes up and down the narrow sleeping street. Our postman was so skinny that it was funny to see him carrying a bag that was too heavy for him from door to door in his oversized uniform that sagged in every conceivable direction. "What do you think is in all those letters?" Sean asked. "People write messages and all sorts of stuff to their families. My grandmother and grandfather in Harlem writes me almost every month. Sometimes they send me money," I said. "Money? Do you think those letters have money in them?" Sean asked, pointing at the mailman as he struggled with his heavy mailbag full of letters over his frail shoulders. "I don't know. Maybe so." "I bet you anything they all have money in them," Sean said, with a hint of mischief in his sparkling eyes. "Maybe not all of them. Some of them," I said, smiling. "Most of them? Maybe," I said. "I bet if we get those letters from the mailboxes, we should be rich by the end of the day," Sean suggested. "We'd have a lot of money, that's for sure." They sat quietly, scheming and watching the mailman as he approached them. When he reached their front door, they plastered their famous innocent grin across their faces and spoke in our And, and we spoke in our most cheerful voices. Good morning, Mr. Jim. Good morning, boys. Mr. Jim gave almost everybody some kind of mail. Being expert young thieves, we waited patiently, perched on Granny's white marble steps, as if we were ferocious tigers ready to pounce on our favorite prey. As soon as Jim the postman completed our block and turned the corner, Sean and I sprang into action. Without uttering a word between us, we jumped up and ran to the top of the street. Sean to one side of the street and I took the other. We ran swiftly from stoop to stoop, collecting mail. Meeting at the end of the block with our hands and pockets stuffed with letters, quickly and cautiously we walked several blocks to make certain that we were out of sight, acting like the gangsters we had seen at the movies and on television. We checked several times to make sure we were alone. Once we turned the corner at 24th Street and Master Street, all was quiet. So we sat down and went to work. Sitting on the curb, we began impatiently opening the letters. The first one we opened had a $5 bill in it. We celebrated for only a minute, then returned to the task of opening the remainder of the stolen letters. As luck would have it, there were no more $5 bills. In fact, there was no more money in any of the letters. What are we going to do with all this mess? Sean asked, looking down at the pile of open letters in front of us. Throw it down there, I said, pointing to the sewer. Where? In the sewer. No one would ever find it down there, I said with confidence. That's real smart. They'll be in the Schuylkill River by tomorrow, Sean said, laughing. We both laughed and started stuffing the unwanted stolen letters into the sewer just as we were disposing of the last few pieces of mail and down the metal-covered hole. Miss Big Fat Esther appeared out of nowhere in her noise-making overrun shoes and her big ugly hat that she wore every day during the week. On those glorious Sunday mornings when all the women in our neighborhood pulled out their Sunday outfits, Miss Esther dressed up as if she was in a modeling contest. But during the week, she looked pitiful. What are you boys doing? She asked in her usual suspicious voice. Sean jumped up, flashed a big broad smile on his innocent face, and said, Good morning, Miss Esther. We were just cleaning some of the trash off the street. This allowed me time to stuff the remaining letters down the sewer. Our block is always so messy. We wanted to help clean it up before everyone woke up, he said, with lies dripping from his smiling lips. Well, we got to get back and finish up, I said, pulling Sean by his sleeve. Be sure y'all clean up in front of my door. You kids messed up something awful last night. Got those tasty cake wrappers all over the place, she complained, shaking her little old finger at us. Yes, ma'am, we said, backing away, smiling fiercely. And I don't know why y'all always play in front of my door. I ain't got a chick or a child, but I have to put up with all that noise every day. It don't make no damn sense, she complained, walking away with her faded cloth shopping bag under her arm and her noisy run-over shoes. Okay, I like this story, but as I said, it came from my husband's past, and it was typical of the boys' personality in the story. So I thought this would be a good thing to put in because they were always getting into mischievous things. Plus, they had their own little tests that they were working on. That's something that they really, really wanted in their lives, and they were trying to portray that gangster attitude, and they thought that they were it as for in the neighborhood. So they were always getting in trouble. So Dexter, who is Jessica and Akinyele's son, he's telling this story. His friend Sean is his best friend, and they start getting into trouble. They were always getting into trouble. So this is like a typical story that would come up. The issue would be resolved and discovered later, but you have to read this. But I read that because I wanted you to see how using real life incidents can help to augment your story and also to shed light on who the characters were in the story. And also it fit in with the timeline because we're talking about the children's early childhood because we follow her children until adulthood. And you would see how the story developed. So take a minute, think about some of the issues in your life or people in your life. Sometimes you have this glowing personality in your family who is maybe funny or maybe they're just crazy out of their minds. Somebody who could lend some color to a situation. You may not want to write exactly what that person, who that person is, but you may want to form a character based on that personality. Just like this particular story, although it was my husband's experience, he did this with his best friend as a child, but I had to mold it into the life of these children in the book and the situation and how it presented itself and even the environment. And the only thing that was true about the environment is that it took place in North Philadelphia. Everything else is fictionalized. So this is something that you may want to look at when you're doing stories because I think it's a great tool to use. Like you can just glean those things out of your life that will help to push the story forward. Now, take a minute and listen to a few things that we've gone over. We talked about Jessica and her relationship with Akinyele, how it began, and all that. We know that they had a child together because it started. The story started with their breakup, and they had a son that they raised, and we're in North Philadelphia, so you get a good look at Philadelphia. It's a odd kind of bookmark. I do have real bookmarks. Anyway, you get to look at this family from all aspects of their lives, and that's what I like about writing. You can create this whole new environment. You can create the places and the time period of your story. So be courageous, be strong, and be determined to just make your story come together and usher it through to the end, and hopefully you have a wonderful story once you complete the task. But stay centered on the plot of the story, stay centered on the character, and make sure those characters are indicative of who they are, their actions, and how they how they perform throughout the story. Who they are in the beginning, it could be they may remain the same in the end, or they could grow into another type of person. They could grow and develop, and you can help them develop. And what would you do to help the story develop as you're helping the personalities to develop in one way or another? Okay, thank you for listening again. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can purchase my books on Amazon.com, Kindle, and you can get them from Barnes & Noble. And I am checking into my website to see how we can get these books, all of them, on one web page. I know that I looked at it myself. You can get Buttermilk Bonner, which is my latest book. You can get that on my webpage, but the other two, or the three, you cannot. So I'll be working on that. Now, enjoy your life, enjoy your love. I'm a romance novelist, so I'm always focused on things that make me happy, and I would like you to do the same. I invite you to do the same with everyone you know. So love always, and take care. Thank you for joining us.